Hello, this is Angela Anderson. Thanks for joining me tonight. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to paint a white tree. We're going to keep it very simple for beginners. It'll be kind of a fantasy type landscape, very simple. I've got my husband Mark with me.
Hey there, everybody.
He's going to be man in chat during our live show, so if you've got questions, you can ask those for us, and let's get started. Okay, so we're going to be using acrylic paints tonight. I keep forgetting to actually mention that. It's in the title, but I still get questions. So we are using acrylics. They are water-based paints, and they dry really fast. I like them better than oils just because there's not any kind of chemicals involved. You can just kind of paint them and go and layer them really quickly. This is my example image. We're going to change it up just a little bit, but this is kind of our starting point. And I'm going to be using a linen canvas archival canvas board by Fredrix. They provided our canvas tonight. They're a canvas sponsor, and we thank them. And then our brushes are going to be just a few. I've got a couple filberts from Princeton 6100 series, the number 6 and number 8. And then I've got a couple of different Deerfoot stipplers here. They're just kind of an angled stippler. If you don't have this, you can use any kind of stiff bristled brush. For some of the foliage, it just makes it a little bit easier. This is a 3/8 inch and a 5/8 inch size. I've got a small fan, bristle fan. So it's got nice stiff bristles. This is a 10/0 in the Princeton Select. All of these are the Princeton Select with the blue handles. And I've got a number 1 liner and a number 1/4 inch angle shader in the VelvetTouch Princeton. So Princeton's are our brush sponsor, and they've provided our brushes. So very good. We're really happy to be working with them. And then one other thing that you might want to have is some chalk and a sea sponge, possibly. If you don't have the sea sponge, you can use the stipplers for all of the foliage, but I think I might use this for some of the larger areas as we get going.
Now, did the ocean supply the sea sponge?
Yes, the ocean supplied the sea sponge.
We're happy to work with you, too.
I did have to buy it, though.
Oh, it wasn't free?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't know. Let's go over the palette really quick. Titanium White, Quinacridone Magenta, Cadmium Red Light. This is Unbleached Titanium, Yellow Oxide, Burnt Sienna, Burnt Umber, and this is a mixture of Carbon Black and Burnt Sienna in my golden fluid acrylics. So they're a little thinner, and they'll be easier for our tree trunk to paint if they're more fluid. So if you've got those, great. If you don't, just add water to your heavy body acrylics. You could use those. Let's get started. I haven't done anything to my canvas. Actually, I want to sketch it out really quick first so we kind of know where our tree is going to be, because that'll kind of make a difference on where we end our foliage and things. So I'm going to just do kind of a light dip here. And it's about 1/4 of the way down. So if you kind of mark half and then mark half again, it's just about there, and then it comes pretty low and then back up. And then I'm going to do another layer kind of right below that and just go right up and split the difference. And then our tree is going to set right in here. Now in this, it's set behind our mountains, and we've got a river in front, which that tree would be ginormous if that was the case. Like, it's a little bit, the perspective is off. So of course it's fantasy, so they can do whatever they want to, but we're going to put our tree in front of the mountains, not behind them. So just that. Hey, it's art. You can do whatever you want. That's why I called it fantasy, because it's pretty much fantasy. But that's
paint with your foot.
Except paint with your foot.
If you're Angela's husband.
Mark.
Hey, real quick, had a question regarding the Cad Red Light.
Yes. That's all I'm going to do. I'm just kind of trying to figure out where to put the hills mostly. Okay. Go. So
they want to know if they just mixed Cad Red with some white, would that be the same thing, or just turn it to pink?
Yeah. Cad Red Light is actually more orange than Cadmium Red Medium, so it really has nothing to do with white at all. So an orange would be better choice adding to your red, or even a yellow adding to the Cadmium Red Medium than adding white. So It's not a mixable color necessarily. I think it's its own color, its own chemical composition. So it's not one that you can like readily mix. Pyro Orange is very similar to it, but it's more of an orange than a red. So I'm going to use Quinacridone Magenta to start with. Grab a little bit of that Cadmium Red Light. Mix those two together to make kind of a salmony red. A little bit more on the orange side than the pink side. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the Unbleached Titanium just on one side here. And we're going to use that up in here. That may be too pink still. Let me add more of that orange. And I really want it fairly light back here, so I'm going to grab more of this Unbleached Titanium. There we go. That's closer to the color we want. And I'm just going to kind of do a up and down motion with my brush. I'm quickly painting it so that I can get it to sort of blend. Don't spend too much time in one spot, and don't kind of keep working and working and working one spot, because what will happen is while you're working that one spot, the edges will start to dry. And then as soon as you touch that edge, it'll lift off the canvas. Once it starts to dry, you really can't mess with acrylics. So I'm going to grab a little bit of burnt sienna. So we're just going to move quickly here while these are drying.
So either either wet or completely dry.
Right. Okay. Exactly. Either wet or completely dry. So keep working in your wet areas, and then once it starts to dry, just leave it alone. Move on. You can always come back and add more later once it's dry, but you don't ever want to go over an area that's drying while it's in the middle of its process, because acrylics are a polymer base, so it's like plastic, and they bond to one another. They attach to one another as they dry, and they will attach to your brush and lift right off the canvas instead of attaching to the canvas where you want them to attach. They will attach to your brush and lift right off the canvas, so which is what we don't want to happen. Right, as I move closer over here, I'm going to add more of the Quinacridone Magenta. I might add a little bit of the brown, because I don't want it to be a fully, yeah, that's the color right there. I don't want it to be super saturated. It's kind of a neutral pink color. It's not too pink. And burnt umber can be mixed with burnt sienna and black, so we're kind of using all of the same colors here. This one is basically burnt umber that I've put here together to mix for the tree trunk. And I'm going just below where I want my horizon line to be, just so that I've got plenty of room for my foliage to go on top of my sky area. So welcome to everybody on a Tuesday night. We're back to Tuesdays. Yay.
Yay.
We've been gone for a while.
Well, just not on YouTube.
Well, yeah, not on YouTube on Tuesdays. We've been doing our Saturday things.
We've been sitting on the couch Tuesday nights.
We have been watching a lot of
TV. Relaxing.
Right.
Well, Angela's arm has been in therapy.
Yes.
So you've recovered from that parkour injury, okay?
Yeah.
Parkour.
Just heard it when I was doing flips.
Okay, so what's that from, everybody? See if anybody knows out there.
See if anybody knows. I'm going to grab some yellow oxide now and do some yellow oxide down here. Now this is probably starting to dry, so I don't want to do too much. I'm going to actually go ahead and leave that, and we'll do this foreground area here. So yellow oxide, a little bit of burnt sienna, or burnt umber, I mean. And maybe a little bit more of the burnt umber. A little bit darker than that. somebody know where that parkour is
No, but they're saying, man, you're painting like really fast. And and then somebody said that if you would paint slower, maybe your arm wouldn't hurt so much.
It's probably true. Probably true. This is actually a pretty fast one, I think. You know, that's why I'm kind of... Yeah, somebody did comment the other day. They were like, I'm a beginner, and if you would paint slower, I could follow you better. And I was like, well, that's what the rewind is for.
Well, actually, and also
and
YouTube.
The pause.
Well, YouTube has an option where...
To slow you down, yeah.
You can watch it at a slower speed.
You're right, I forgot about that.
Half speed or quarter speed, or you can even speed it up, too, so... Yeah. We just sound a little
really weird when you slow down.
That was a very bad attempt at trying to sound slow.
Sound slow. Clean it out. Get a little bit more of the burnt umber. I'm going to grab a little bit of that black. Just make it a little bit darker. And I am going to add a little bit of the Quinacridone Magenta to kind of make it a little bit of a warmer color. There we go. And this is just the first layer, so we're going to put another layer on top of this. So this is just kind of to start with. And I'm not going to put the river in, I don't think, because it really didn't work in this composition, in my opinion. So just because there's so little of this foreground, it really doesn't make sense to have the river in there unless you moved this foreground up a lot farther, and then you could have the river be, I don't know, anyhow, just...
So people said that the slow motion is not good because they can't really understand the instructions.
Oh.
So what you need to do, you need to talk really fast.
Talk really fast?
Well, you're painting really fast so that when they slow it down, it sounds normal.
Okay.
Like one of those guys at the end of a commercial.
You know. Like an auctioneer.
Here, let me slow that down, see what you just said. Hold on.
I don't know. It doesn't matter what I do. I'm not going to please everybody, so I kind of quit trying and just got to do my thing and hope that those who like it will find us. That's really kind of all I hope for anymore. All right. I'm going to let you dry this, honey, if that's okay. Are you set up? I don't know if you're ready.
I wasn't ready for that, but I'll take care of it.
Well, it's not drying very fast, so I'm just going to need help with it. Get it going, because otherwise it'll just lift. So we'll give our stickman a tree while we're waiting. This is our mascot stickman here. We'll give him a little tree. And stick it off. Well, I guess we could put it up here. Maybe. Stickman is Mark's creation, but I add something to him depending on whatever it is we are painting that day. So when I remember to. Sometimes we're not hair drying, and so when I don't, I tend to forget. But hope you all had a happy Easter weekend. We got to go up to see family, which is always nice. The weather was good for it. Now we've got rain. But I got to see all my boys, so that was always a good time when my boys are around. I'm going to grab some white here and just tap in some white. Okay, there we go. I did over the top of the trees, or the whatever that cloud thing was there, so you could see it. Okay. I can't remember what that was from. That was from I think that was from actually that was the first one we did this year. So that's all the way from the first of the year, because that was the new beginnings one. We did the kind of nebula in the sky kind of thing, I think. All right, there we go. So you'll want to do the same thing. You'll want to dry it at this point before you put anything else on. So I'm going to, let me see what colors I want to use here. I'm going to use a little bit of this black color that I mixed for this foreground and add some white to it and see what it looks like. It's black and burnt umber and quinacridone magenta. Here we go. So we're basically adding gray to our quinacridone magenta. That's the color I want. And this area behind the tree is all kind of grayed out. And then there's some area in front, and I've got some of that gray still in my brush, so it's going to mix. I'm going to use a little bit of it up here. And I'm just lightly going over. You can still see some of the other color underneath. You can see, and I'm just going to create this kind of, I don't know, foggy atmosphere in our background behind our tree, behind our tree. Where our tree's living. Okay. See how that red glow kind of adds to it too? That's where I was saying we're kind of changing it up a little bit because I wanted to add a little bit of extra detail to that background. And then we're going to add a little bit of, grab that color again, I'm going to add a little bit of the burnt sienna. And grab a little bit of that cadmium red light. And up in here, I'm going to add a little dark. That might be a little too dark. I'll grab a little bit of white to add to that. Just adding random shapes up in here. They almost look like buildings or something in the far distance. Add some light color. Go over and soften those up. They seem a little bit dark to me.
So you said hi to everybody, right?
I did.
Welcome to the channel.
Yep, welcome. I didn't say
Thumbs
ask
up.
them to subscribe. Yeah, please give a thumbs up and subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe.
If you haven't already.
Thumbs up.
If you're new, let us know you like these. Giving a thumbs up also lets YouTube know that you like our channel, and you'll get more, it'll be more likely that they suggest my videos in the future. So it helps us
spread the word.
Spread the word and get our, well, helps you get to see, you know, what we do in the future if you give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So,
yep. But
every time you thumbs up a video, I've had to go and unthumbs up music videos because they'll play it over and over again. So please don't do that. But
don't unthumbs up.
Don't unthumbs up, yeah. But just know you're telling the algorithm, hey, I like what this person's doing. Please show me more of their stuff. So it can be a good thing and a bad thing. When it comes to music videos, it's not necessarily a good thing because then I get to see the same one over and over and over again. That's all right.
Somebody's asking, or several people wondering, are those kind of like buildings in the background?
That's what I think it is. That's what it looks like to me. It kind of looks like buildings. This one's a little too high, I think. But see, I'm just kind of adding layer upon layer. I want them to be kind of nebulous, like you can't really tell exactly what they are. We're going to add a little bit of this purpley color. This over here, we're going to add it up in this upper corner here. And this is kind of watered down, so it's just sort of lightly washing. And then I do want to go in with a little bit of this brighter orangey color, adding a lot of white, just a little bit of the Cadmium Red Light here. And I'm going to go in between here and add a little bit of it. This is where I can kind of bring it back down a little bit, maybe if I got it up too high. Very, very light touching. Don't have a lot of paint on my brush. Just a little bit of paint here, and I'm kind of basically dry brushing here. Very lightly.
Perfect opportunity for hashtag sidecam.
Ooh.
Only right here on this channel.
You saw it first.
That's right.
Maybe not. I don't know. I'm sure there's other people that do it too, honey.
They have our side cam. I didn't know they used it.
Well, not ours, but you know.
It's not an original idea, is what you're telling me.
Probably not. I don't know. I have no idea.
Man, I thought I was some kind of video wizard here. Did you know there's a different angle than just from straight above? It's amazing.
Wow. Okay, so just added that kind of orangey glow back there, and then went over it with the darker orange, just sort of set it in. And then if we took too much of that dark color out right here, we can always go back in and firm that up a little bit and add a little bit more of it in if you want those to be a little bit more rounded or kind of shaped out, a little bit more defined. And then I'm going to add a little bit of this down here too. I always like to add a little bit of light color to my horizon line. It adds to that feeling of depth. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my white and some of that pink color. And I'm going to add it down in here. And I'm just kind of wisping it up. From the hillside, and letting it catch on the canvas texture, so it looks a little bit see-through, like kind of like fog. Key is having a light touch and not having too much paint on your brush when you do this. Otherwise, it'll just be a solid paint color that you're adding, which is fine. It's a different look, but you know, it just won't look exactly like this. This is your painting, though. You can do whatever you want with it. It doesn't have to be like mine. All right, and then I'm going to add just a little bit of, and a little bit more on the tip of my brush, and just sort of tap in, almost like clouds, with a little bit extra paint. So I'm pressing a little harder this time, but just letting that very tip of the brush touch the canvas so that it's creating kind of these little cloud shapes. And I'd add a little bit more of that purple down in here. All right, that's good enough. Clean that out. Now I'm going to switch to my stippler, and really doesn't matter which one. I think I'll get the smaller one just to start with. And I'm going to mix up burnt sienna and burnt umber. Grab a little bit of that orange color that's from the sky here. So it's just a little bit darker than the background. There we go.
Question. Someone asked, could they use zinc white?
Yes. Yep, zinc white would look quite nice. Zinc white will give it a transparent look without having to worry about too much, about the application. It'll be a little bit easier to control maybe. Tapping in along that horizon line so that I'm getting these kind of bushy things. I don't have a lot of paint on my brush. And I'm just kind of tapping, pointing the tip of the brush. I really load the tip of it darkest. So I have most of the paint along this front edge. And as I tap, I'm just kind of tapping straight up and down. And moving it side to side and kind of tapping it front and back, side to side, so that I don't get too much of the same. If you stay in the same place too long, what happens is you get these repeated type patterns happening. So to avoid that, if I kind of go up and back like this, I still have those patterns, but they get camouflaged because I'm moving my brush up and down and side to side, and it'll help even more if I twist it a little bit as I do it. So if I twist it this way back and forth a little bit, it will kind of confuse that pattern and do even a better job. See the difference? So that's what we're going for with these stippling. We want to make sure we're constantly moving the brush side to side, twisting it back and forth. I'm going to grab some of that orange color too.
They like that pro tip there.
Oh, good.
Good job, honey.
Thank you. Well, I think that's one of the things I see a lot with stippling, is just that either they have too much paint on their brush. So if you have too much paint on your brush, I'll show you what that looks like. That looks like this. You just have a solid clump. And you don't get this airy thing. We've already put down the color underneath, so we don't have to do the solid. All we're looking for now is a little texture along the top ridge and in the body of it. So don't load it up too thickly, or you'll end up with a big solid clump of color and you won't get this little textured effect that we're going for. That's my job. I'm trying to help them have success. Have them have something when they're done with this that they are like, hey, I didn't think I could do that, but they did. That's the whole goal.
Oh, well, I get that. It's just not something that I want to keep. It's like, wow, I didn't know I could do that.
Not true.
Yeah, well, I see you mailed off my
I didn't mail it in yet, but I've got it. Yeah, I've got it packaged up.
So they made it to the package. It's addressed. It's on the table to go out. It just has to go to the
post office now, which might take another month to get in the post to the post office. Who knows? Knowing me, just all right. This is the dark color here. Tapping in same way, just kind of I've added black and a little bit of the burnt sienna to this color. So, and just darkening up this bottom area here. And really, we could go up higher. We might not want to exactly match the contours of the previous layer, just so that it doesn't look like we're too matchy-matchy. So maybe bring one side up a little bit closer to the edge in a couple places there. There we go. All right. Now to the tree. And I'm going to start out with the angle brush for the tree. It might sound kind of weird, but it will actually put on our lines a little bit easier. It's easier to put on your lines with a flat brush usually than with a round brush. It's easier to control. So So I'm going to do this Y shape in my tree. Bring one branch out and kind of angle it straight up. And then I'm going to nestle it down into my dark area here so it kind of disappears down into the foliage. And then this side, I'm going to bring it in and angle it up towards this upper corner here. And then there's going to be branches coming off. The thing with trees is you want to have these Y shapes. The branches are growing up toward the light. So as they break off, they're really generally always going upward. So you're going to have these Y shapes where they split off from one another. And occasionally you'll see the backside of a tree. You might see a limb that's kind of looking like it's coming down off of a branch. Well, what it's really doing is growing upward and then falling down. It's always going to be coming up off of the tree in an upward motion. So if you remember that when you're putting in your branches, it'll look a lot more natural. I'm going to put it nice and far out here. I'm kind of going to bring it out this way a little bit more than maybe it is in the picture. All right. There we go. And then I'm going to use this color that I've made here. This is that black and burnt sienna mixture. It's probably a little bit darker than burnt umber. I didn't have burnt umber in the fluid acrylic, so that's why I'm kind of making my own version of it. So I'm just going to super chat.
Now I'm not sure how much I can do it. But this super chat is from Dina. And it says, love you guys. Angela, you are amazing.
Oh.
Sorry, you're amazing. Kind of linked it out there.
Thank you, Dina.
I tend to agree.
That's sweet. You agree?
Of me or her?
I would hope. I would hope you think that. Okay, I'm making sure that this, yeah, there we go. Just want to make sure that it doesn't look like it's falling over there. Okay, that looks good. And what I do is, you can do the kind of, trunk part flat edge with the brush, but then as you get to the thinner parts, you turn it on its side and it'll create these nice straight lines for you. And you can draw it all the way up. Now, you just have to be careful not to, like right there, I kind of twisted a little bit. You just have to be careful not to twist it too much. You want to keep it right on that edge. If it's too difficult to do, it takes a little bit of getting used to. So if you're not comfortable with doing it this way, just use a liner brush or a round brush to do this. But I want to make sure that I'm watching my width of my branches. So as they go up, they're going to get thinner. If I had an area on here, say, where my branch was, I'm trying to figure out where to do it, where my branch got kind of thick right here. See how it's thin right here and then thick right there? What I need to do is make sure that that branch is thick, the same thickness or thicker all the way down. So I have to adjust the whole rest of the branch there to match that thickness, and then make sure that I keep it thinner as I go out towards the tips, that it continues to taper down to a smaller and smaller edge. If you have a thick spot in the middle of your tree trunk, it just looks kind of unnatural. It doesn't look right. Your eye's going to kind of go, what is that? So like right there, I want to go in and make sure that all the rest of my thing is thick. And then where it meets the branch, there will be a little bit of a thickness where the branch touches the other branch. I don't know. I'm not saying that right, but okay, I need to stop talking and just concentrate on what I'm doing here because I need to switch to a different brush already. So really pretty much that's about as much as you can get done, and then you need to switch to a smaller brush. I wanted to say you can do, would you get me that tree there? You can do it with a pen. This is a Molotow pen. It's actually acrylic paint inside the pen. We did this as a mixed media project with my Patreon group, and it was actually a really fun project. But the tree was fully done with pens, with this pen, and it made it really, really easy to do. So I have the brown, but I went ahead and went with the brush, but don't feel like it's cheating. I mean, it will make it a lot easier to do it with the pen because somehow, you know, usually you're a little bit more comfortable using a pen since you draw and write, you know, every day. Usually, well, not anymore, really. My handwriting has gotten worse and worse the more I type, but it will still feel more comfortable than a brush usually to use a marker. So if you're a first-time painter, you know, if you're new to painting. So just know that those kind of things are available if you choose. Just make sure that you use a product that works with acrylics. You know, those are acrylic ink in there. There's some paint pens that are oil-based, so you wouldn't want to use those over the top of your acrylic painting necessarily. They'll stick, but then you wouldn't be able to paint on top of them or do anything else, or the varnish might not adhere properly. So I would stick to a product that works with acrylics. There's a lot of, like Sharpies will work, but Sharpies are alcohol based, so they can fade over time. And if you were to use a varnish or something that had alcohol in it, it could lift that off of the canvas because it will reactivate the ink, just like adding water to a watercolor type of painting would reactivate it. With acrylics, you don't have to worry about that because they dry solid. They become basically a plastic on the canvas when they dry. So, but they do take a few days to cure completely. So you can still kind of, you still have to be careful with them after you paint it, and wait a few days to varnish just to make sure that it's fully cured. Even though the surface layer might be dry, the underneath is still drying and curing, hardening. Done talking about that, sorry. All right, so I'm just keeping on bringing all these branches, and I'm really not looking at the picture anymore, so these are probably not exactly what I have on there, but doing these zigzag lines. If I get a thick area, just make sure that I thicken up the whole branch, right? All the way down. I'm crossing over one branch with another. That way it looks a little bit more natural too. I try not to cross a branch in a place where it would confuse the eye, though, so it can be if you were to bring your branch out through the middle of this, say this juncture here, it might look weird. So I kind of always come up above it or below it or something. So I try not to cross when I'm crossing over my branches. I try not to cross them in a juncture of any kind. And that way it doesn't look like there is you kind of know what it's doing. Never mind. Go ahead. What?
Oh, I was just going to make a witty comment, but it lost its moment.
Sorry, Ann.
You had to go on teaching about art stuff. Whatever. Fine, just make it your own channel. I don't care.
All right. Keep on going. Most of this... Oh, shoot. I meant to do... Darn it. I just thought of something. I was going to do this first. Shoot. I was going to put down some white first. Before I put my branches. I got so happy about putting my branches on. I forgot what I was going to do. Well, we'll just do it over the top of our branches. We'll probably have to paint some back in. That's okay. I'm going to stop here, though, so I don't have to do all of it. All right, so I'm going to find a clean, dry stippler, and I'll go ahead and use my icy sponge. Go ahead and get that all cleaned out there. And I'm going to use my white and grab some of that purpley, if I can, a little bit of the Quinacridone Magenta and a little bit of the tree color. So that black and the Quinacridone, it's similar to this color that was back here, but it's a little bit lighter, so a little bit more white in it. And I want to make sure it's nice and blended. And I'm going to stipple in, there we go, a little bit of this gray purple behind my tree. So, same deal with the stippler, the Deerfoot stippler that I showed before. We want to make sure that we are not repeating our patterns. So I'm going to keep moving and kind of turning my sponge side to side. See, and if we did this color back here dark enough, we can see it through. That's why we don't want this color back here to be too dark or too light, because it's got to be dark enough for our white tree to kind of show some contrast. So, okay. Getting some gray here. I want it a little bit. There we go. So do this first. I should have done this part first before I put my branches on. Do that, and then we'll put our branches over the top. And then what we'll do is we'll add more of the white on top of that, even still, and I'll press it even farther back. So, I'll put these back in quickly here. And if you do this with chalk here, like you can see where I didn't quite cover over my chalk lines, don't worry about the chalk. You don't have to cover up those. They'll disappear once you add water to the... Just add a little bit of a damp cloth after you finish painting and they'll come right off. Just make sure your paint's dry first. I tend to not wait long enough and lift off the color too. Okay, here we go. So I'm doing this twice when I didn't need to, but sorry. Goes a little faster once you know where the branches go though. when you're using the liner brush, you just want to make sure you have nice fluid. It should be like a milk consistency. Most people don't do their paint thin enough, and that's why they have trouble with the liner brush. It should flow right off the brush very smoothly, just like ink. If it's not doing that, then you have too much. Your paint's too thick.
Okay, we got a good question here.
Yes.
So they want to know how could they do their lines if they feel their hands are too shaky and they don't have a marker or a pen or anything like that.
Using your hand to brace yourself helps a lot with that. So if you will find a way to grip your wrist right here, because that's usually where the shaking happens. If you'll grip your wrist here and then use your fingers to kind of control it, you can turn it. A lot of people find that they have a little easier time when they pull lines in the direction that they write in. So if you're right-handed and you're writing left to right, a lot of times it'll be easier for you to do lines in that direction. It'll be smoother. So that can help. And then just bracing your wrist can help as well, propping it up so that the thing is, you kind of almost have to have it on an easel if you're going to hold your wrist, or not have this thing in the way, I guess. Or have Mark hold it for me. You can hold my canvas straight for me so it doesn't move around while I'm doing this. Joking. But yeah, that can be an issue. But usually, like if I was doing a mural or something and I needed, if I was in an odd angle or something, usually I would either prop up my wrist underneath. You don't even have to hold it, so you can hold it like this and find a way to hold it down and prop your wrist up at the same time, But really with trees, the shaky kind of works. So as long as you have the good grip on your brush and you're not pressing too hard, having a brush that's thin enough that even if you press down really hard, it's not going to make too big of a line will help too. So if you have a very, very thin brush, then you can kind of let the shakiness happen and you don't have to worry too much about it pressing down too hard or creating lines that are too thick. All right, there we go. So we've got our tree branches in there now. And then for the fun part, just to finish it off, we're going to use our white. And I'll go ahead and use this Deerfoot Stippler again. And I'm going to tap in sections of highlight over the top of my branches. See how that, now having that dark color underneath with those branches underneath, that's pushed them all back towards the background. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of the gray and do a little bit of the gray stippling. Maybe even pick up a little bit of pink on there. Do a little bit of it right here. So it's not just white, I'll add a little bit of gray underneath some of these. Like that. Out of my clean white.
Okay, when you're doing this tappy part, are you doing random things or a more specific pattern, or like how you showed us earlier on that brown stuff?
Yeah, I'm definitely keeping it random. You don't want to matchy. So Very light taps, but I have, quite a bit of color. I've loaded a little bit more color just on the very, very tip of the brush. Oops, you're not seeing it because you're on side cam. Right there. See? So when I'm tapping in, I'm kind of angling it down and I'm picking up fresh paint just on the very tip there. So I have a fairly good amount of paint right up in there that I can tap down very lightly on. If you load your brush right, you don't have to press very hard to get the right amount of paint down on the canvas. And that gives it a better look. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to add too much, but I am going to do some of those little stringy things because I really like the this stuff going on here. So, ooh, super chat.
This one's from Joanne. She says, "You're amazing."
Oh, thanks, Joanne. Thank you. I'm glad you guys are liking this. We appreciate your donation.
Yes,
we
thank
really
you,
do.
Joanne,
That
very
means a lot.
much. And thank you for your support.
Very, very special. Okay, I'm going to grab some of that gray and put it in this area too. Notice just a little bit of it. I want to get it on top of my tree, but I do want a little bit of it down in here. Okay. I think we need to splatter tonight too. What are you thinking? You think? I kind of think it needs some splattering. Just feeling the splatters happening. It's calling me.
Not even probably less than 5 minutes ago for sure. I commented, "I'm taking bets on splatters."
You knew. You already knew it was going to happen, didn't you?
Oh, there's a high probability. There's two factors. Is there a painting? And is Angela doing it? So if the answer is yes to
both of those, then yes,
or splattering maybe.
Cue the splattering.
Cover up the pets and the kids. We're going to be splattering.
All right, to do this, it's really important to have a very stiff bristled brush. You could do this with a round brush too, if you had a very small round brush. Or I could even do it with my, here, I'll show you with this. I could, do the tapping with it. Just make sure that you're kind of keeping them random and leaving gaps in between. So we're adding little, I like these. That's pretty. And they're a little bit gray. They're not pure white, so we're kind of wanting them a little bit gray so that they sort of fade into the background a little bit. So they're not so in your face. If you put them too white, they're just going to be like, wow, look at that. You don't want it to like overwhelm the painting. What?
And just use a little spit to wipe that off there.
I did.
It's just fine.
Yeah, it's a little spit shine. I'm going to put a little bit of gray down here. I'm trying to keep these horizontal too, so they're getting a little angled. I'm seeing they're kind of going off that direction, so I'm trying to keep them a little bit more straight. So pretty. I love this. This is really, yeah. I like when we get to this part of the painting, I start getting happy. It's working. I know, I'm weird. Sorry.
What movie is that from?
I don't remember. What is it from?
Don't say. We'll see if anybody else knows.
Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. Yep. So we got two quotes. Parkour, parkour. Which Nobody
said?
Come on yet, so we just might be weird.
I don't know. We never did answer the question where
From Saturday?
On Saturday, did we? I don't think we did. What was it? I can't remember what we were talking about.
Oh,
anymore.
I want that.
I want that. Yep. From Napoleon Dynamite. When he's showing her shipping the set, Tupperware set or something. I don't know. I can't remember.
Yeah, they have the door-to-door salesman Tupperware, and he showed her the model ship.
Model ship, that's what it was. Yeah.
She looked to her husband and said, I want that.
You're so weird. I wish I had made that a little bit lower, but that's all right. So, and that's definitely. You know, one thing we could do that's not in the picture that I kind of think might look nice, and we'll try it. Let's just see how it works. Here is, I think I might do a little highlight on our bushes. So I'm going to do a little bit of gray and just do a little highlighting just along the top edges of some of these bushes here. Just the dark area. There we go. Since our light source is kind of coming from back in here a little bit, I might just... We could put a little bit of it along our tree trunk too. I'm just going to use the edge to sort of darken, or to... There we go. I like how this is turning out. Good fun. All right, let's splatter. Let's splatter. Let's do it. One last step. Gotta do it. 7 o'clock. Time for dinner. Hope you all had fun tonight. Glad to be back on Tuesdays with us.
Amen.
We're very glad to be with you. Glad my arm's feeling better.
We didn't realize how much we missed it.
I know. We really did. Kind of at a loss for a while there.
We had a lot of people commenting how it was just kind of weird not having on Tuesday nights, and we're like, yeah, you're right, it is. Same for us.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
So...
Okay. This is kind of pink and orangey. I've just kind of made up that kind of pinky orange color with the Quinacridone Magenta and the...
Did you talk about Patreon?
Red. No, I didn't. Yeah, we'll have the traceable for this on Patreon available. So if you don't want to have to draw this tree out, you can join Patreon and we'll have that. And you'll have my reference image from the finished painting.
I want to say thank you to there's over 1,000 supporters on Patreon. It's just amazing.
I know. It's amazing.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, there we go. Ooh, yeah, the sprinkles added a lot. I think it ties in the whole thing. Sprinkles.
Sprinkles or splatters?
It's all good. It's all good.
Jimmy's?
Oh, gosh. And I'm probably going to sign it. I'll sign it down here with my Molotow pen. Well, that's white, though. I don't think I want to do that. I guess I'll use my... Somebody asked me about signing with a brush.
I was busy talking and I missed the super chat.
Ooh.
So this one's from Jan. She says, "This is not enough for all the things you've taught me.
Oh.
Thank you so much, Angela. ... And Mark."
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you so much, Jan. We really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly.
I can't read it. So.
Yeah, because the name doesn't sound like American, so it may have... It's spelled Jan. So...
Well, that sounds right.
It's close.
Jan. Well, Jan is a... Okay, never mind. I'm not going to go there.
I'll let you sign.
Thank you. So, it helps if you hold it, chalk up real close, so that the only part that's touching the canvas is the very tip. And then make sure your brush is flexible enough that it can bend. Because if you have too thin of a brush, a brush that can't bend enough to go around in a circle, and you can tell on paper if you practice whether it will do that for you or not. You'll just kind of get these broken lines in your signature. This one has a stray hair that's doing something weird. It's giving me a double line, but anyhow, you really just write it just like you do with a pen. If you have it close enough up on this, if you're holding it close enough up on the silver part and you have a flexible enough brush, you can really pretty much just do it the way you write with a pen. So, all right, there we go. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate you. We'll be back Saturday with another painting for you. I'm not sure exactly what we're painting yet, but it should be hopefully fun. And we'll have that.
It better be.
Better
I'm
be.
not going to show up if it's not.
Okay.
I'll take my bell and go somewhere else.
Oh, well, I hope not. Can't do this without you, man.
Oh, I can't do it without you either.
True that. All right, guys. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Bye.